What's up, everybody? It's your boy T here from Tapered Viking podcast. I got another real special episode for you guys today. I know we've been in trying times lately. You know, things have been rough. Society's been kind of rough. Supply chain issues, COVID, lockdowns, people going nuts, toilet paper shortages, all kinds of things. So today I brought my boy here, Kyle Geller from All in Survival, to talk to us today about how we can be more prepared and just kind of add preparedness into our everyday lives and to kind of protect and lead and just defend our families if times kind of do get worse, which it seems like we're headed. Kyle, go ahead. What's up, brother? How are you?
Well, thanks for having me on.
Thank you, man.
Cheers.
Talk to him, man. Tell us about who you are, what you do.
I'm a whiskey drinker.
I love it. What are we drinking today? You brought the bottle.
This is Basil Hayden, my favorite.
Beautiful.
It's wonderful.
And I'm very grateful for
very
that. Very
oaky. So yeah, I'm Kyle, and I have a channel called All in Survival, and I try to put out information about preparedness and leading from the front, and having the mindset of a preparedness life. Being able to understand that we live in great times. It's wonderful to have everything that we could ever want right now. But this is just a splash in the, pond of time. And just like that, it could all go away. And we need to recognize that our forefathers did have it rough. Some of them had it very rough. And it's possible that we could go back. So we have to understand that old saying that if you ignore history, you're doomed to repeat it. So, so I've kind of charged myself with teaching people preparedness goals, and I put out videos from time to time, and it's going well. It's a small channel, but I'm growing steam.
There we go. Okay.
So
hopefully our little collab here gets us both a little views and
I love it.
Gets things going, but hopefully more or less helps the people and get some information out there.
Right.
So how did you start this? Like, where did you get into preparedness? Like, where did you see the need?
Right. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. How long have you been prepping for?
Okay.
And then we'll talk about what got you into it.
Well, let's see. I'm going to say it's right around 17 years at this point. So what took me towards preparedness? Well, I joined the military, and I learned a lot of great things soldiering-wise. But while I was in the service, I had an opportunity to participate in Katrina in 2005 down in Louisiana.
What branch?
I was an Army military police officer. I got deployed down there. They gave us about 12 hours notice and said, you're going off to Louisiana to help out with the recovery. Well, we had no idea, except for just stuff you saw on TV. And so we flew down there, and it was a mess. I had never experienced anything like that. I had been already in combat in Iraq, and I saw more stuff that has stuck with me since. And it was one of those very odd situations where you recognize that this is a city just like my city, just in a different part of the U.S., and these people are suffering. This is bad. And so we deployed down there, and we set up as a military police unit, and our job was to have people to go to a collection area and try to safely extract them out of the disaster area, right? So I had some experience with helicopters. I'm air assault qualified, and they tasked me and my group with contacting helicopters and having them land and loading them up with people and having them take people
to safety.
Yeah, safety. And in these days, they would call that a F.E.M.A camp. Are you aware what the word FEMA is?
Can you? I am, but let's
Okay.
just
All
make
right.
sure.
So
Yeah.
FEMA. So FEMA is a government agency that's tasked with helping people in a disaster area.
What does it stand for? Do you know?
Federal Emergency Management.
Lightning going off right now?
I think we're having a lightning storm, but yeah. So, but the honest answer is they've never been very good at doing their job, and I don't think they ever will be. But that's for a whole nother debate. The point is that we went down there and we were helping people leave to a safe area, but they had set up several FEMA camps in locations outside of the disaster area.
To areas that are ran by that association or that
Right,
group
a
that
government
is meant to
organization,
help
yeah.
people.
Right. So we didn't know at the time, but these places weren't doing real well. But we kept sending people. And one of the days that I was there, the second day I was there, I ran across a guy who had been killed, right? And he was a father, and he was protecting.
Killed in what way? Okay, I'm so sorry.
He got jumped by several guys. There was actually some people who witnessed this, and he was trying to keep these guys from messing with his daughter. And he stood up to them, and they proceeded to beat him to death, and then violate his daughter in many, many ways. And it was one of the most tragic situations I had ever seen. And I had seen like straight tanks blown up and people splatter all over the place, and
This
it just
is home turf.
It hit me solid.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, what is this? What am I feeling? It took a while. And so I took in all of these different circumstances. We ended up living in a parking garage for 2 weeks on the ground while we were doing the best we could to try and get people out. As these lines of people are showing up, they're being searched and put on to helicopters and sent out. It came down from upper that we were going to make sure that nothing came with them that looked like they had been looted from stores. So no like property that was theft.
Okay.
No lighters or anything that could make fire for safety purposes, and no firearms.
So you got to strip them.
Right. So I thought, okay. And then I asked my lieutenant, I'm like, so, hey, sir, how are we documenting this and giving him a claim ticket and all that? And how are we going to get it back to him?
How are we doing this correctly?
Yeah, right. And he's like, no. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, we're just taking it. We're taking people's firearms. Yeah. And just like that look, I was like, okay.
But under what, like rule, law, under what circumstance?
Well, I'm not the lawyer on the
enough.
ground, but it seemed like we were pretty much in a martial law type situation. But there hadn't been martial law declared. So it's a very weird situation. Yeah. So I felt really uncomfortable with it. And so, as always, we started getting guys coming in, and they would have pistols on them. And one guy had a family of 4, and he was very vocal about how he didn't want to let go of his guns. And I was like, I understand why.
Yeah, well,
I was a combat veteran at that point. There was many people around me that were too. We wouldn't give up our guns for any particular reason. And he's like, this gun has saved my life like 4 times in the last 2 days. I'm not giving my gun up. And we ended up having to tell him he couldn't fly on the helicopter. Right. And I was like, I found myself mildly upset about it at the time.
Course.
Right. At the time, it was like, we're here to help. We're here to help you get out. You don't want to go because of that. That's okay, fine. But I stewed on it. right? I stewed on it for many years. I actually stewed on it, but this was just one of many situations. It wasn't till maybe a year later that I actually read a lot of reports about how things were in these FEMA camps that they were going to. And you have to understand that if you take all the weapons away from a group of people, the biggest and strongest and the meanest is going to be the big dog on the block.
Fair enough.
So the gangsters.
Fair,
right?
yeah.
So you take this gun away from a guy with 4 kids. He gets on a thing. He goes to this, gets on a helicopter, goes to the FEMA camp, and now he's got to deal with Antoine, the block gangster leader, and he's shaking him down for half of his stuff and whatever, right? So it's just not.
Yeah,
it's not American.
Yeah, of
right?
course.
Does it not feel American?
No,
It doesn't
of
feel
course
American,
not.
right? So I started to really take that in. About within 5 or 6 months of coming back from Katrina in 2005, I was fully on board. I was like, okay, I'm not going to let that happen to me or anybody I love. That's not happening. And I started to kind of look at what are the things that could do that. I'm like, well, I live in Las Vegas. I'm not going to get a big storm,
Something crazy.
Yeah, I'm not going to get a big, storm coming in and making me homeless. But there are many other things that can do it. I didn't realize it at the time. So, so I started clicking. And I met a guy. His name is Craig. And he started talking to me about different books. I'm a soldier. I wasn't a reader. But he's like, oh, no, you can listen to it on your, iPad and iPod at that time.
Yeah, just listen to it.
And I was like, okay, well, that's this book right here. It's The Patriot by James Wesley Rawls. This is the first book, and this is the book that started me down the rabbit hole.
A novel of survival in the coming collapse. Okay,
right.
Continue.
And so interestingly enough, this book takes place where there's a financial starts to go with inflation and then hyperinflation, and then the whole system collapses.
Hey.
Right. And even back in 2005, 2006, I started seeing similarities to our current situation. And I was like, oh, this is crazy. I need to do more. I need to, do more. So I started researching everything I could. And I was already pretty good at the outdoor stuff. I did military, Boy Scouts, lots of hikes. I had done lots of long distance backpacking trips, and I enjoyed being in nature. But I had to take it in a more of a survival path, and that just took time and knowledge and reading. And I would not consider myself a bushcrafter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't enjoy going out with a knife and a hatchet and some, and a lighter and just making shit happen. I can do some of that, and I like to practice at the very minimum fire starting and shelter building.
The basics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think that if we're living a normal urban life and you make sure that you have a certain amount of funds set aside, that you can make a lot more happen by putting supplies and stuff aside. So that was the start, right? It became a passion. My wife would call it a hobby.
I think all wives would call it a hobby.
Right. But the more I got into it and the farther down the rabbit hole I went, I realized I don't really do it for me. I do it for my wife and my son and my father and my cousin. I do this because I wouldn't say they don't see the value in it, but they're not willing to make the commitment to do
The work.
There's
a lot of sweat equity, not just financial. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. You have, there's a lot of things that can be learned. And there are a lot of aspects to preparedness that a lot of people don't, understand or know, right? So we talked about this once before, but the differences between a prepper, a bushcrafter, and a
survivalist.
Well, a survivalist would be thrown kind of into the bushcrafting side, but a homesteader. These three things are kind of the same, but they're in a different path, right? So a bushcrafter, a little backpack, a knife and some good stuff, going into the woods and making a go out of it for a couple of days, some traps and some small fires and making a shelter out of whatever you can find. That's a bushcrafter. That's great. I love it. A prepper, somebody who's working and living mostly the urban life, puts away food, puts away medical supplies, puts away guns and ammo, and has a plan and knows knowledge about certain things and is going
up to times, I'm sure.
Going to try and make a go out of it in the urban environment. That's a prepper.
Okay.
And then you have a homesteader, somebody who's not a farmer and not an urban person, but somebody on 1 to 10 acres, maybe 20, and they're living a lifestyle that is less
reliant.
They don't need anything, right? They have some food set aside. They have chickens. They might have a goat or two. They have a cow that they breed. This is the lifestyle where they have a greenhouse and they're trying to, the more percentage of your daily intake you can produce yourself, the less reliant you are on anyone else.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like as a young person, you take in as much as you can, right? Information. As you get to those ages where your earning potential is at the highest, you're kind of more in a prepper type of situation. And then when you get into your late 40s, 50s and retirement, you want a homestead style. The earlier you can get to homestead style, the better. Right? So that's the kind of overwhelming idea of preparedness. You have to understand that you're on your own, right? If I'm not exactly sure who said this. I think it was Ronald Reagan. The scariest words in the world are, "We're the government and we're here to help."
Yeah.
Right. So we have to understand that it doesn't matter if the government has great intentions in helping you like the poor souls down in Florida, they're still recovering from the tornado, right? Or not tornado, hurricane, right? The hurricane that hit the west coast of. They're still reeling from that. But they sat around for weeks waiting. Where is the government here to help us? Oh man, that's you. Yeah. You have to help you, right? So I try and throw out as much information as I can. I'm not a big fan of telling people you have to buy this product. You have to do this. I give kind of examples of what I do and what things might to consider when making a decision on what you might do. Mm-hmm. Even outside of our valley here in Las Vegas, somebody else's in Utah might be a completely different situation. Right. Yeah. So they can't listen to me and be like, I'm going to do exactly what he's doing. Mm-hmm. It's a terrible idea. But they might take some concepts.
To get some type of concept and framework from you.
Right. Yeah.
So let me ask you. So you're in the military, you get called to Katrina.
Yeah.
You see some stuff. you get back home, what was you start seeing? Okay, I need to make a change. I need to figure something out. I got a family to protect.
Right.
What was your first angle? Like, what was your first go-to?
Right.
What was your first step?
So I actually kind of laughed because I can remember what I was on a little tiny 1-bedroom apartment, and I went to an Albertsons case lot sale,
Mm-hmm.
and I must have bought $300 worth of cases of cans of cord and vegetables and soup.
A
And
bunch of canned stuff.
just canned soup.
It seems like a lot of people's first go-to.
And I went and I had a little 1-bedroom apartment. I had a little coat closet,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like in the back of the coat closet all the way to the top filled. Right. And I was like, I'm good.
Yeah, you did what you could though.
Right.
With what you're, yeah.
And then I started building a go bag. Right. And, even today you go on the F.E.M.A website and it'll show you how to build a really basic 72-hour bag, a go bag, a bug out bag. There's a lot of different things that people call that. But the idea is self-reliance for 72 hours. That's the bag, right? And your skills will determine what's in the bag. Your knowledge and your plan of what you're going to do in the 72 hours that things go badly will dictate what's in the bag.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, super important. A 72-hour bag, super important. That's step one.
Step one, get
Always
that
step one.
72-hour bag.
Right? Even if 5 years later you look at the bag and you're like, that's terrible. It's
But at least you're
terrible.
making moves towards something.
You made a conscious decision.
Yeah.
And know that your safety and your self-preservation is your responsibility.
And that's
right?
that's very important.
Yeah.
So I mean, okay, so you have your go bag,
Yeah.
right? What's something like how is someone incorporating this now? Like what are things that people might not know that they need, but it's good to keep stored, or stuff that you might already have laying around the house that you might just want to add a couple more of.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like what's some things that people can use to get more prepared every day?
So it's an interesting step. Before COVID, I would have never thought about having to stay in place for 2 weeks in my home. Right? That was a big deal.
That was a big deal for every human.
I don't think we talked about it, but I currently work for law enforcement, and I'm in a position within law enforcement where I'm kind of with my ear to the ground. I'm in the center of everything that's happening.
Okay.
I hear and I see a lot of things that are happening before everybody else does. One of the reasons I took the job. But the honest answer is that they were seriously considering having everybody stay at home for 2 solid weeks and not leave. Like, hey, you're not allowed to leave for 2 weeks.
And even if you did leave, it wasn't, you were going into chaos. You weren't going into anything interesting anyways.
The thing about it is
your business was closed.
They decided they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
They just literally didn't have the resources to make that happen. So what did they do? Here in Vegas, do you remember what the COVID reaction was?
We locked down. Stay home if you were feeling like it at some point. I don't remember the specifics, but
so the idea was, well, you should stay home whenever possible.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. Like something like that. It was
Whenever
wishy-washy. It wasn't like
And what was open?
Only the essentials.
Right. So
essential businesses,
gas stations, grocery stores, things like that. But those were bad. My wife called me from work and she's panicking. She's like, I'm at the grocery store and there's people actually fighting over toilet paper,
sanitizers.
They were literally and I actually said, do you have your gun with you? She said no, and I said, grab your purse, back away from the cart, and go home.
Yeah, get the shit later.
Yeah, I'm like, and I actually said as she's talking to me, I'm like, there's nothing in your cart that we have to have. I know this sounds arrogant,
No,
but there's
you've been
nothing
prepared for this.
there's nothing in the cart that we couldn't live without for a couple of weeks. And she's like, okay, and she just walked out. That was kind of a proud moment because I wanted her to recognize that I had foreseen situations like that
And we're ready for it.
and was ready for it. Now, that's not an aha moment, and I don't want my wife to be in danger. I want her to recognize what danger is and not call me for permission to leave.
Yeah. Like, now, what do I do? What do I do? Yeah.
She needs to do that on her own. I'm leaving now. Because one little fist fight could turn into 10 fist fights.
Or
and
could turn
the
into
whole
someone
place-
pulling out a pistol and...
Right. Could turn really bad really fast. There's no point in that, right? So I truly believe that there are a million different things you can eat. We can step out of our comfort zone for a couple of weeks. That's not a big deal. Damn, that's good.
That's so good.
So, yeah, so preparedness starts with go back. Well, let's step back. Preparedness starts with a mindset. The mindset absolutely 100% needs to be like, I'm on my own. It's my decisions. There's no resupply. Whatever preparations I do today that's it.
What's gonna
That's
lock
it,
you in when shit
right?
hits the fan. Yeah.
This is easy when you're a single guy. This is not so easy when you're married with kids. And you know this more than most,
Yeah,
right?
I know that's right.
You got the clan going on.
I know that's right.
So the point is like, if you're not sitting around at night thinking, what am I forgetting? You're not doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got everything covered, the way you should still be sitting around thinking, what have I forgotten?
Mm-hmm.
What am I not remembering? You know? And it was an honor and kind of a scary moment when you called me during the first week of COVID and said, dude, what's going on? And what do you think of all this stuff? You're the most prepared guy I know.
Facts. I've known you. We've known each other for a long time. And you've been still hold the title of the most prepared man I know.
I was shocked because I never considered myself that guy.
Yeah.
I literally didn't. I was like, well, I take care of myself, but I didn't really think about myself being the most prepared guy you knew. So I'm like, okay, well, like, what's your food situation? And you're like, well, I'm stacking it deep, And at first I was worried about you, but then I came over and recognized that that big freezer fridge in you, and I'm like, oh, he's doing it right. So yeah, it was, like, it's good to recognize that that people might draw on your knowledge. It's also a little bit of it's a little scary.
Yeah.
Like, it can be scary to be like, hey, when somebody asks you your opinion, maybe they might take it to heart and go with it. And maybe they're like, oh, that's just a opinion, and I'll ask 10 other people and see what they say.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay too, but I'm not going to tell somebody to do something I haven't already done. And I'm coming at this from a father, a husband, and a veteran.
Patriot.
Yeah, I'm a patriot. I truly believe that we have gone astray in our country.
That's
right.
That's a whole.
Yeah, that's another.
But that's fact, though.
We've gone astray.
We have gone so far astray that
And,
is it salvageable?
Oh man.
Or do we just keep going deeper, deeper, deeper until these preps become necessary?
So if I can draw from history, and I like to do that. I draw from history. I think we're in the urge. We're on the very verge of the fall of Rome. The fall of It wasn't necessarily the conquering Germans or barbarians. And in those days, they called them the barbarians, but they were Germans. It wasn't the German barbarian hordes that really took them down. It was excess. It was they were so far advanced in their technology. They were having parties every night. They were living the top 10% was living off the backs of the other 90%. Yeah,
Sounds very similar.
it is.
Sounds like it rhymes.
It just, and when even in those days they had senators, right? That's where the whole thing came from. The senators of Rome.
Mm-hmm.
The senators, when they stopped looking out for their people and only cared about getting reelected and looking out for their own portfolios type things, that's the start of the downward spiral. And I think we're getting there. So I look at the history and I recognize that even here in the United States, I just did a video talking about the Minuteman, right?
What is that specifically?
Right. So the video is about Minuteman loadout, and the Minuteman is a citizen soldier. About 110 years before the Revolutionary War, the colonials, mostly in Massachusetts, but in several of the other colonial states areas, they had militias. Militias were any male between the ages of 16 and 60 that could pick up a rifle. In those days, their rifles were flintlocks, and they were rifled bore muskets, basically. And they would defend their homeland, their town, their city, their whatever, right? So that's the militia. That's been around for ages.
Mm-hmm.
But those guys would only train 3 times a year. Just enough to know how to use their weapons and stand in a line and protect their neighborhood. They decided that 20% were going to be Minuteman. These were going to be young guys, under 20, no families, able to train 2 days a week and pick up and leave their homes at a moment's notice. So that means their kit was ready to go, like combat load ready to go now, right? So these guys, and how would they train? Well, they trained exactly like the British military. They wanted to train exactly like their enemy.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes total sense to be ahead
so
of the curve.
that they could be knowledgeable about what it took to be a professional soldier, right? So these guys, 20%. And they started that about 120 years before our Revolutionary War. And I thought it was amazing that just like in those days, over about 60 or 70 years, it fell out of favor. Like it was not acceptable anymore to be a militia and be a Minuteman. And
yeah, nowadays the word militia is very frowned upon. It seems like
the point is that things got better for about 80 years, 2 generations, and all of a sudden people were not following those rules. About 2 years prior to the Revolutionary War in 1773 or 4, they decided that I think I'm good for now. They decided that they need to reinstitute this tradition, right? They need a militia for every city, town, county, whatever you want to call it back then, ward. And they also need a Minuteman to respond quickly. These were the best of the young guys, the fighters. 2 years went by. The British in Boston decided they were going to take the rest of the state. The word went out at Concord. Concord was the start of the American Revolution. And in the first day, 4,000 Minutemen showed up. In the very first day. Now, this is walking. Some had horses, but guys showed up from the entire state in the first day. Within a week, they had 22,000 soldiers there. And these were just citizen soldiers trying to protect their lands from the British. And that was the start of the American Revolution, right? So we look at the Minuteman and we decide, so I used to be an active duty soldier, and now I am an old man, as soldiers go. I'm in my late 40s, and I'm a citizen soldier now. I still want to protect my family, my neighborhood, my city, my country. If it went that far and I had to go to country, the citizen soldiers are supposed to be a backup to our active duty military. But they're also a check and balance on a rogue government, right? The Second Amendment was designed to make sure that we had arms at the same level as the active standing army of the time, so that we were a checks and balances on a government gone stupid, right?
That's a very good way to explain that in layman's terms.
Right. And so they know that, right? They're scared of a population that's armed. That's obvious.
Yeah, of course.
They're obvious. And they've been whittling away as much as possible at our rights. But right now, we still have the ability to buy things that are not necessarily at active duty military level, but can get us pretty close, right? You can have body armor, you can have a helmet, you can buy NVGs, you can buy IR lasers, you can buy a good rifle, you can get into the section. Right.
Now we're ticking.
But this stuff's not cheap.
It's not cheap.
It takes dedication. It takes some serious willpower to put yourself in that position.
But priceless, though. Not cheap, but priceless.
Right. So over the last 2 or 3 years, I've been pushing hard on putting my gear back to tip-top shape. And I
would figure security is a large part of prepping.
Well, yeah, you can buy thousands of pounds of rice and beans and all that good stuff. If you don't have a firearm and aren't knowledgeable on how to keep it, even your next door neighbor can walk in and take it. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, all your shit's gone.
So it's an integral part of preparedness.
What's a good place for someone to start? Like if they have no security on point, like what's a good place to start? Like home security or personal security? Like what's a good place to kind of lean into?
No, that's a tough call. If you have a family, you're going to start with home security.
Okay, get into that. What does that look like?
So,
like what are some of the uncommon things that you've
common
and uncommon? Like we're talking to people who don't know anything about home security. Like what's like a good overview of what people should be having?
Well, you need a pistol, right?
Fair enough.
You need a pistol, and it's the most diverse piece of equipment that you can have.
I know some people would say like shotgun rifle. I have my feelings, but why would you? What would you say?
You want to be able to cross over, right? So if I would have said the first thing you should do is EDC, your everyday carry.
Yeah.
That's a pistol. But if you're a family man and you want to protect your home and your family,
security, you're
going to start still at the same spot with your everyday carry, right? Yeah. Everyday carry is important. You have to have it because it should always be with you, right? It's uncomfortable, but it's probably only 2 or 3 hours of the day that I'm not sleeping, that I don't have this on me.
I'm 100% the same boat.
Right. So the point is that you have to get comfortable with it, get knowledge, and get training.
So gun being someone already gets in, but what are we talking about keeping someone out? When we're talking about home security.
Right, well, yeah.
Preparedness, home security.
Get a dog.
Dog, what else?
Yeah, well, I got the German Shepherd. You're going to need to make sure you have a hard target. I have a degree in criminal justice and corporate security, but the honest answer is it talks about how to make your establishment harder of a target than your next door neighbor.
So how do we get that?
Right.
Like
So
what are some lists? Like what are some things that someone can have to be a hard target? We said dog, we said gun. What else we got?
Security gate on your front door.
Gates.
Making sure that you have don't have huge bushes in front of your windows.
People can't hide.
Don't want to hide while trying to sneak in.
Lighting well lit, cameras.
Yeah. I mean, I go for low tech. I worry about things like my backyard. I try not to put cameras on my front yard because I don't want people to think there's cameras. I actually have cameras that are hidden that nobody can really see.
Got you.
But
visible cameras.
Right. I went to high extent to try and hide the cameras, but then in the backyard, floodlights with cameras. Great. When the floodlights
Motion
go off,
sensor,
yeah,
things like that.
I get a text. Wife gets a text.
Beautiful.
So the point is that if you're going to live in a dangerous area, and anywhere in the city is higher danger than you should. If you're going to, you better make mitigations to each of those threat levels, right? We have a side gate. It's always locked. There's a motion sensor 3 feet inside the gate. So if somebody jumps the gate.
So you have those levels of security.
Somebody jumps the gate. I get a ding, ding, side gate. I get an alarm. That gives us 30 seconds before they're standing at my back door. They're going to have a bad day.
Yeah.
Right. So the other thing about security is your neighbors, right? Knowing your neighbors. The guy behind me.
What they do.
Yeah, the guy behind me is a great guy. And I never stop asking him if he needs help with stuff. There's a really older lady next to me.
Do your neighbors know you're prepper? You're a prepper?
I would say yes. I
How do you
try
feel
not.
about that? Because I know that's kind of controversial in this world. Like
The
letting
ones
people know.
directly on 3 sides of me do, and it's because I've offered so much help to them that I'm willing to go out on a limb. Their safety and survival is also high on my list of
Love that.
priorities.
You gotta
Right.
love that.
But I also, on one side of me, I have somebody that I'm always watching out for, right? So that's nerve-wracking. So I put a little extra effort into that side of the house.
Yeah.
But, people talk about, well, why are you prepping? Or what are you doing? I don't really care why somebody's prepping. I'm willing to help them on anything. If you think that aliens are coming down and they're gonna try and take over the world,
Probe people.
I'm okay with it. I'm not gonna argue with you. Once upon a time I would be upset about that and be like, that's stupid, blah blah blah. Now, okay, well, tell me what your goal is, and I'm gonna let you know where we can start and how to get there and how long it might take you with this kind of a budget. Now, with this kind of a budget, we'll cut that time in half to get you where you want to be. Why would I care so much about that? Not care about the reason, but care about them getting to where they need to get. It's a question.
Mm-hmm. Are you asking me the question?
It's a question mark.
Why would you?
Why is it important that I not care about why they're prepping, but only that they prep?
Oh, just because as long as they're prepping for whatever, they're prepared.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, like, as long as
so
they're
if
prepping for
something
anything.
totally different happens, they're still prepared.
Ready.
And they're not one of the ones banging on my door
Asking for help.
asking for
I always tell people who don't know what to get prepped for. I always tell them, and they think I'm joking, and I'm serious, but joking. I tell them prep for the zombie apocalypse. I know it'll never happen. I get it. But my point is, if you're prepared for that,
Right.
you're prepared for anything. You're pretty much ready to go for anything. That means you got home security on lock. That means you got your guns and your ammo on lock. That means you got your food storage on lock. That means you got all kinds of generators, probably soundproofing things. You got all kinds of stuff ready.
Right.
So no matter what, because that's like the worst. Anything that happens under that, you'll be covered.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter what they're prepping for, as long as they're prepping.
So
That's the answer to your question. I didn't realize that was a question, by the way. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
He said question mark.
Question mark. And I really truly believe that you're right on. Like, zombie apocalypse in my mind is not the worst thing that can happen.
Oh,
but if you're prepared for that, you're going to be pretty close.
what do you think is the worst that can happen? What's worse than a zombie apocalypse?
The switching of the poles, magnetic poles, that's going to be pretty bad.
What happens with that?
An EMP.
What happens with that?
Okay. Well, about every 12,000 years, historically, we've had a shifting of our north and south pole to the point where it creates major havoc amongst the entire world.
What kind of havoc? Like, I know what an EMP like shuts down electricity,
Right.
and then we can see what happens to.
So what if I told you that the North Pole would be in Malaysia, and the South Pole would be in Malaysia, and the North Pole might be in, let's say,
Just so you know, whatever you
Germany.
say is not going to make much
just
sense
saying.
to me. But what I'm saying is, what does that mean? What would happen if that
means-
happens? What happens to society and to the world if that shift happens?
right. It's drama on the biblical scale.
How?
Like, I'm not a scientist.
No, I know, but are you saying like power goes down?
I'm saying,
Or are you saying like natural disaster?
so I'm
Or
saying,
are you saying
it's
what happens when these two poles shift?
right.
What does that cause? Potentially even. What do you like what could that potentially I know wreak havoc,
Right.
but
It's not what I think is actually going to happen.
I get it.
But I'm just
But
saying,
I'm saying if that happened, I'm just curious.
if that happened, it would be
You said that's like probably one of the worst
a
things.
rearranging of our entire, like the equator would be in a completely different spot. It might go through a desert. Now all of a sudden a desert starts turning into a jungle. Like, we're talking about the rearranging of our entire ecosystem.
And this has happened in history?
Every 12 to 15,000 years, all the way back. Yeah.
So when
Look
was
it
the
up.
last
It's-
one?
About 12,000 years ago.
No way.
You can look it up.
So people prep.
I'm just saying. But I have to be honest. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen.
But you're just saying that's like
When you go down the rabbit hole,
Yeah.
there are things that are the worst case scenario.
Yeah. I think
Right.
zombie's still the worst case scenario.
So I actually think an EMP would be worse than zombie.
I doubt it.
Why? Let me tell you why I think zombie would be better. All the cars would still work. The power might still be even better.
But you couldn't
Every generator
use
would
them.
still work.
But you couldn't use
Why
them
not?
because it'd be too loud and zombies would come. You get a horde of zombies.
I would turn on a generator to be able to power a weapon that just sliced through whatever zombies I needed to.
No, but then
I'm just saying.
Eh.
Well, are we talking World War Z zombies or are we talking Walking Dead zombies?
Zombies that eat flesh.
No, there's a huge difference.
Okay, I don't care
Did
if
you
they're
watch-
slow or fast. I watch both.
Okay.
I know the fast
I'm
fuckers.
not worried about the Walking Dead
And I know the
ones.
walker fuckers. I'm talking about even the Walking Dead ones. That would suck because
It would
even
suck.
even
would
though. Okay, go ahead. We're not gonna get to the Walking Dead.
You could go all the way down the rabbit hole with that.
Yeah, I'll go all the way down the rabbit hole. You give me some
The point
whiskey and
is-
some Walking Dead
The
and some
point
prepping.
is,
We're talking.
no, I love Walking Dead. Don't get me wrong. I just think Walking Dead is a metaphor. The Walking Dead is a metaphor for.
I think that's more of a society thing than anything.
Well, it is.
Yeah.
It's a society metaphor. So let's be honest. let's say the power goes out tomorrow for a billion different reasons, and then all of a sudden, you're the only one on the block with your grill still working, and you're trying to grill up all the meat that was in your freezers, and it was right? Mm-hmm. 10 days after the power goes out, you're still in the backyard grilling meat, trying to get it all preserved. There are people that are so hungry because they have 2 or 3 days worth of food in their house, doors down. Those are zombies now. They're alive. Yeah, they're alive. Yeah. Those are real people. And the hungrier they get, they turn into zombies.
God, that's real.
It's a metaphor for the unprepared.
I want that to sink in.
It's a metaphor for the unprepared.
Because I've always prepared, like I said, and I mean that, for the zombie apocalypse, right. Even though I know it never happens. But that's a very interesting play on that word. Because you were right, because the people that will get hungry and that aren't prepared will start not eating flesh, but will start...
No, they will eventually eat flesh.
Fair enough.
They will eventually eat flesh. And the point that I'm trying to make is that, so when I first started teaching people, I said there's 3 types of people out there. And understand that in today's society, these people are completely different than on the other side of an emergency situation. You have the first person who's the nice, happy-go-lucky guy who's, let's say he's a dentist and he's got money and he's got a nice house and he's living alone and he's a great guy, right? He's willing to help anybody for anything. This guy, when he hasn't eaten for 3 days, he will probably start doing things that anybody would decide is bad. Mm-hmm. Number 2, this guy was always kind of a black sheep, a little bit of a bad guy, wouldn't below common criminal, not really a career criminal, but this guy is... his morals are very lower. He's going to start much sooner taking shit from people, being rude, taking money, and taking whatever he wants, right? That guy's not even that dangerous in my eye. Now you take the suburban dad of 5 kids and a wife. None of them have any food.
That's not mean of mine.
Think about it for a second.
No, I know, but what would you not have food?
What would you not do to feed those hungry kids that are telling you they're starving?
Zombie apocalypse.
What I'm telling you is the bad guy is not really even the most dangerous guy.
Shout out Brother Lynch Hung.
Right. So I'm telling you that the suburban dad is probably going to be the first one to get killed because he's going to do something that's going to put him in terrible danger. But he is going to be willing to risk his own life to feed his family and kids. I know this because I have that feeling. There's no way I'm letting my kid just start telling me he's starving.
Hungry,
right?
Yeah.
That's primal, right? Now, those are the 3. Now take somebody like you and me. We have kids. We have families. What are we capable of? If we have never prepped, we don't have food in our house, what are we capable of?
But it's still me and you. Like, it's still what we know.
But I'm just saying, if I don't prep, then I am setting myself up to be a wolf.
Agreed.
I would be a terrible wolf. If tomorrow something bad happened and there was no food in my house, you do not want to see what would happen after a week of hearing my wife and kids say they're hungry.
No, I mean, that's, like you said, suburban. I mean, that's...
Right. The skills that I have acquired over these 40 years and the toys that I have picked up would make me a terrible, terrible bad guy. I don't want to be that guy. And I can fix that. Dude,
what an interesting perspective.
I can fix that by doing my work right now to make sure I'm not a bad guy. All I have to do is put 10 bags.
You realize, no, hold on now. I don't think you realize how deep what you just said was.
It is very deep. You have to emotionally get there. You have to understand.
Son of a bitch, dude. Because it's in that, because if you, like you said, if you don't really get yourself in that mindset of desperation, there is really only two choices.
I've seen the desperation. That's what put me in this chair.
There's only two fucking choices, and that's wolf. That's like to be hunted or to hunt. That's crazy. There's a third.
There's a third.
And that's what I was just about to say. Go ahead. I was just about to get into that.
By the time you recognize that you could be a wolf and you have the means and the time and the energy and the fortitude to not listen to the naysayers and not even listen to your wife sometimes and prepare, you now are a shepherd, a sheepdog out there protecting people, sometimes even from yourself, right? The sheep are afraid of the sheepdog. I guarantee it. My neighbors recognize this huge truck and this guy who, I'm not small.
The beast.
The beast is out there, and I'm out there, and they know that I know that they're scared of me.
Yeah.
They don't recognize that I'm a sheepdog, and I will protect them. I will go to the end of the block in a riot and stand there in the breach, and I will do that. They don't even have to ask me. I'll do that. But I also got to protect my family first, right?
Of course.
Family has to come first. And if you don't set yourself up the right way, you could potentially go out there to help everyone else and then leave your family there alone to survive for themselves.
Yeah, you got to get yourself set up first.
Right, and you have to, because it's one of those things, right? It's important. It's your job. It's your duty. Leadership.
I 100% believe that preparing, and this type of preparing specifically, is your masculine duty.
Right, and this is a good segue, right? So as I have been trying to put out videos to teach people, and I answer every single DM I get, even the haters, but I will answer them. My point is, I'm trying to teach people to not be wolves, get themselves in the right spot, and do the right thing. I now have a 5-year-old, right? And as he's getting a little older, right, I want to instill in him values. I have put myself in a position where I am with my son more than my wife is. I literally...
On purpose? You did that on purpose?
I decided to go to and work nights.
Yeah.
I spend all day, just about every day, with my son. And we wrestle, we talk about things, we battle will powers, I let my ego and I let his ego just we go back and forth, but we challenge each other and we talk, and we're boys. He's my son, and what do I want for him? Seeing and knowing what I've done, well, I am putting myself in a position to teach him how to be self-reliant. I don't want to force it on him in a mean and horrible way. I've read stories where fathers were so forceful about teaching them their sons how to defend themselves,
how
and
to prep, and dude,
that it just was a stain on their soul.
Yes. Have you seen the show? I know you've seen the show, but that prepper show. Oh my goodness, it's like the super popular prepper show, and it documents all the lives of the people and doomsday preppers.
Yeah,
And some of the pressure, some of the stuff they put their kids through at okay,
yeah,
there's a limit. You get crazy at some point.
I think
I'm a prepper through and through, but there's a limit until you start reaching crazy tinfoil hat crazy.
I think some of those. I think the.
Or I'm just
airlines,
because their preps are so great.
I think the TV show did a really good job of trying to target the ones that particularly looked insane.
Yeah.
And they were trying to cause a little drama, and most of their scenario stuffs were bologna and just bullshit. But I'd like to think that most preppers are not that far into it, that it almost feels mentally ill type level.
We've met a couple of those in some of them prepper groups.
We have.
Some of the stuff that we've experienced.
I think everybody gets to the place that they are at their own speed, and because of the things that they've seen and done. Right? So we both know somebody named Dave.
Yeah.
Right? There were times when I met him and heard him talking about why he was prepping and things like that, where I was slightly concerned. I still had the mindset of I didn't care why you were prepping.
Just prep.
Just prepping is good, and as long as you're prepping and I'm prepping, I don't have to worry about you coming after my food if you're prepping. But
yeah, really, that's a lot of reason why.
Right. So, but he said that he thought his idea was that he thought that the government was pushing race diversity, pushing us apart, and that there was going to be a race war against minorities and the whites.
Okay.
Right. And at the time, we're talking almost 10 years ago now.
Like low-key, that kind of happened.
Right. So now.
Low-key, that kind of happened.
Right. So at first I was like, well, that's crazy talk, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy talk. But then that kind of started to happen. And I was like, oh, that's why I'm way more open now, because his insight is based off of how he lived, where he lived, and what he saw and did. Nobody can come to me and tell me my opinions are wrong because they didn't live in my shoes. They didn't see what I saw. They didn't see the government take firearms away from people and send them to F.E.M.A camps.
Oh God, what a nightmare.
and get their, they didn't see F.E.M.A fail miserably and people standing around eating rotten food and standing in 6 inches of muddy, murky water for days and days at a time. Nobody can challenge me on that stuff because that's mine. Those are mine. Those things made me stronger for who I am now.
Strong times create.
Yeah.
I mean, strong men create good times.
And good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times.
Mm-hmm.
And the point is that if you just stayed hard the whole time, you saw that things were nice, but you were like, this can only last for so long.
Yeah,
and
it's too nice.
You stayed hard.
Yeah,
you
too
stayed
quiet.
in the gym.
Yeah.
You stayed training with your knives and your guns, and you stayed dangerous, right? You took Jordan Peterson's words to heart, and you said, a dangerous man
Is a good man.
is a good man. Because a weak man is nothing. There's no virtue there for him to be good.
That's why they want so much weak men nowadays.
They want weakness. They don't want us to
promoting
stand up to them. I hate the fact that our society today says that you are not allowed to protect yourself.
Horrible.
You get treated like you're some kind of vigilante because you stood up against somebody. You stood your ground, And, yeah, I'm not into that. Ever since I was a kid, I was not okay with bullies.
Yeah.
And I got bullied terribly. I was a very scrawny
Government
kid.
is one large bully. And the more men are weak, the more the society is easy to control. Because if a man is too weak to control and take care and prepare and protect his own family, then he has to rely on someone else to do it.
Well, true.
And it's easier to say, hey, stay in your house for 2 weeks, if there's a bunch of weak men saying, okay, we will.
Yeah.
But if there's people saying, no, I got a fucking business to run.
Right.
No, I have shit I have to do.
Right.
it'd be a little harder for them to make some of the moves that they make.
They need massive amounts of people to stand next to that guy who's like, oh, forget you.
Yeah, so the more that this type of stuff spreads, the better.
Yeah.
Right? Because during that COVID stuff, it was getting nuts, dude. People were, like you said, I mean, in the intro, people were fighting over toilet paper. Yeah, I mean, who's to think that that's something that you would store and it would come in handy? Right? Like, what are some other random things that you've seen that you could store that
don't ask me how many rolls of toilet paper I have.
I mean, now I have to ask. It's probably to the rafters.
I have at least 50.
Fair. That's it?
At least 50.
It doesn't sound much.
50 rolls will get you a long way.
I feel like a multi-pack is like 50.
No. They're this big.
I don't know why I felt like you were going to say 500.
No. But I got probably, I don't remember the last count.
Yeah.
I would probably venture it's more than that. But
yeah,
let's just say we're not going to the store anytime soon.
Yeah, there's only way it's only 50.
I go to Costco, right?
Yeah.
I have a paper towel and a toilet paper that sits in the garage up on the side, and it's there just to look at.
Yeah.
Right? If the ones in the house go empty, you can take that one.
Okay.
And it goes inside, but that's now on the list. That has to go back as soon as possible.
Yeah.
That's the rule in the house. And I'm
Love
okay
that.
with
So
it.
it's like a rotation system.
Right, and that's fine. But then somewhere hidden is plenty more. And I do the same thing with everything. You know, I try. So let's go back to the COVID, right? When people started asking about COVID, you know, how do we prepare? How do we get ourselves ready? I was like, this is pretty simple. Take a pen and paper, go into your kitchen, and start looking at the things that you eat the most of, right? If your kid eats oatmeal every day for breakfast, then you're an idiot for not having 20 pounds of oatmeal on hand.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Now, if your kid eats something different every day, that's fine. Now you're going to have to... Hey, a kid that eats something different every day for breakfast is... Man, he can move. He can eat anything.
Yeah.
But there are some, right? We're just coming out of this phase with my boy, he's 5, where he ate nothing but chicken nuggets every goddamn night for like 2 years.
Things, bro.
2 years. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Finally.
Well, you packed some chicken nuggets, I'm sure.
Oh, I had a little freezer in the garage. I had Costco, the big bags. I had at least 2 in there always.
Yeah.
Right. So something went down. I've got at least 2 weeks, maybe even a month of chicken nuggets before I got to tell him you're eating something else.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So,
but the stuff, the idea that you're saying that write stuff down that your family eats when you go to the grocery store, buy a little extra of it, store it away.
Always.
Like something I did was, like you said earlier, as soon as I moved into my new place, I put in a second fridge. And we just fill that. We just keep it filled. We keep the freezer filled with frozen meats.
Yeah.
We keep the fridge. Thank God my wife is on board and she's very helpful with it.
Yeah.
So she's always filling both freezers. Yeah. And as we, like you said, the same rotation system. Same thing with like waters. Like we at our house we have a water jug, you know, the 5-gallon ones, the dispensers. So I have like 8 or 9 of the 5-gallon dispensers.
Right.
All in rotation.
Yeah, those are great.
And that's not to include the storage of water that we have for like other shit hit the fan zombie apocalypse situation where if something happens, we have cooking water, we have washing water, we have all that. But we have in rotation consistently about 8 of those 5-gallon things, and as soon as like half of them are empty, I go fill half and then rotate. So even if shit hits the fan, I have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, like 40 gallons of water, at least to get us through a little bit, and that's all drinkable.
Right, and that's good because 40 gallons of water will get you quite a while if you stop washing.
I mean, no, but what I was saying was I have a lot of like not dirty, but not drinkable or not potable, stored water away as well.
Okay.
But I am talking about I have 8 of the 5 gallons just drinking. Yeah. Not if we're going to boil. Yeah. If we're talking boil, cleaning, toilet flushing, all that kind of water, I have a lot away of just 5-gallon buckets just stored up of just water.
Yeah, that's good.
But the 8 is the 5-gallon drinkable water.
So your garage is packed.
Oh, to the top.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
not to
good.
the top, but
That's
as top as it can go.
That's good.
To speak about podcasts. My first podcast I ever listened to, as you knew, was the Survival podcast with Jack Spirko. He set you and him set the foundation for my prepping, like for sure.
Right.
And he suggested, and I want your opinion on this, like 2-liter sodas, or like Lipton tea bottles. Apparently, they're meant to like contain acidic drinks, right?
Right.
So that plastic doesn't burn or doesn't like melt down into
it
the water.
It doesn't give off chemicals into the water.
So he says that you fill up a bunch. I don't know if he's still saying that, but back in the day, he would say you fill up these 2-liter gallons and you find maybe like Pepsi racks and you just stack them to the rafters. So I have a bunch of those just for like washing, cleaning,
right,
toilet flushing.
Did you put anything in it?
Nothing.
Right. So
I just kind of put it. Boom, stacked them. And
so here's the only issue that you got going on there. And so if you didn't put any chlorine in there to kill absolutely every piece of bacteria into the water, then it's sitting in your garage. It's probably heating up to the level where it would
create bacteria. How dangerous would this bacteria be if it's just for like cleaning?
Well,
or like I said,
as long as you didn't get it in your eyes or your mouth or your nose, you'd be fine. What I'm just saying is that if you would have put 1 ounce or half an ounce
We're talking 2-liter.
Half an ounce per 2-liter, you would have killed everything that's inside the thing, and you would have basically sterilized the inside of it.
Is it too late? Can I reopen them and like make a project out of it? Open them,
It's a great idea.
Close it.
That's a good project. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Done. Oh, done. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, you could just go and get a couple of bottles of bleach and set them out. Make maybe like a turkey baster.
Yeah.
And do half in each one, and close them up.
Pool chlorine?
Yeah, man. As long as it doesn't have.
I'm not drinking it, so.
No, as long as it doesn't have anti-algae, like anything more than just chlorine. You make sure it's just pure chlorine.
Done. Okay.
Let's say the chances are really slim, but it's time to use that water.
Yeah.
And you open it and it smells like chlorine, which it likely will not.
By then.
Right. It's killed everything inside and then it dissipates.
Yeah.
But if it does, you just leave it in the sun. Open the top, leave it in the sun. All the chlorine will leave.
So that's while we're drinking it.
Yeah.
Or like when we need to reopen it.
Yeah. Or if you want to boil it again or run it through a filter. Berkeys are a great idea.
Yeah, Berkey water filtration.
Yeah, you just take that same water, dump it into the Berkey, and yeah. But
Jack Spirko, Survival Podcast, always talking.
I remember him. I learned some from podcasts. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. I prefer the books. So this gentleman actually did 3 books.
James Wesley Rawls.
Yep. And he's, I'm sure, retired in middle of Idaho at this point in his little compound. He made enough money doing the books to build himself one hell of a retreat.
I would imagine so.
Nobody really knows where that's at, and that's fine. But I learned so much from him. I credit his work. He also had a website. I don't remember the name of it. I listened to it and I went on it for years when I first started prepping, and I kind of went away from it. But lots of great information. There's just so many aspects of preparedness, right? So firearms are sexy.
Yeah.
Food is complicated, but not that complicated. We even sat down and did opening of
the buckets.
Yeah.
No, making.
We made buckets, but we also ate.
Tasted the foods. We tasted all the survival foods. I will put all the links up.
Yeah.
In the here or there.
So yeah. So Surefire 111 actually helped me.
That was back in the day.
Helped
Surefire.
me do
now
some
it's
videos.
T from Tapered Viking podcast.
Right.
Barbershop.
But it was one of the great videos that we had. We had a great time. My wife was there laughing at us. And we cooked up some of the survival food and tried it on camera.
How valuable was that video? Because we spent like an hour gagging.
I think it was
and
great.
Old MREs. I mean, it was valuable.
It was valuable because, first off, it was great entertainment. But
yes, it was.
The point was that a lot of preppers buy stuff and they never test it out.
They don't know how to use it.
No, because they see value in what they're buying, right?
But they don't
want to use it. Why would you want to burn up or use something valuable?
Let me tell you something that I found valuable in the video. So I don't know how. Okay, I won't say that, but we have some MREs,
right?
That I've obtained, and I mean, I'm thinking if some shit ever hit the fan, and we never had that video, and I open it up, and it's like a self-heating pouch, and there's all these things, I wouldn't know what to do.
Right. So
as like a normal citizen, never been in the military, prepper, had the resources to get the MREs. Shit hits the fan. I don't have you.
Right.
I don't have YouTube to be like, how to eat an MRE. If I don't ever taste it before, what the fuck am I going to do? It's like you have to try that shit.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah, so if you've never been in the military and you've never watched on any kind of podcast or some kind of YouTube video on how to actually open and eat
look it up. He has a video. I'm going to post it. It's actually different. It's not just open and eat it. It's like there's things that have to happen. And I know it sounds silly.
Wow.
But if
you can eat it cold, but it tastes a lot better warm.
No, it is. And it's like you want the full effect of what it is and what each stuff is and what each pouch does and blah, blah, blah. And so either way, that's just to say that knowing what you have and you know.
Right.
And really training with that. And so going on to the food stuff.
So food is tough, right? So we talked about it. So to go all the way back to the basics, right? You want to be able to go into your pantry and have 2 weeks worth of food.
But like, I would assume that changes based off the size of family.
Let's start. No, it's my family is 4 people. I need 2 weeks worth of food for my family.
Have you ever broken that down to like calories? And
no, I don't even think about it. I think about it in meal prep. I think about it in meals. So just remember 2 things. 1, calories don't really matter. If you're hungry, you're hungry. 2, the diet that you're going to be on in an emergency situation is the absolute opposite of what normal society wants you to do. Yeah. Right? So in normal society, we're supposed to eat low carbohydrates, good vegetables, organic, and we want to eat low calories so that we're not putting on extra weight, because in our everyday world, we're not burning as much as we're taking in, right? That's fine, but in a survival situation, you want to maximize every single calorie that you have coming in. You want it to be salty. You want it to be fatty. You want it to have lots of carbs. These are okay, right? So I tell people all the time, you know those stupid 15-cent top ramens?
Yeah.
You should be buying the shit out of them.
Stack them the fuck up.
Don't. Oh, man.
What's the shelf life on those? Is that a shelf life, or does it even matter at that point, right? It's freeze-dried. There's nothing liquidy to make it like moldy.
It's completely, it's powdered, and it's some super dried up noodles, right? Yeah. So, okay, you get to the point and it tastes a little stale. Just shit. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, fuck it. Yeah.
It's salty, it's fatty, it's goodness. It's carbs. Right?
So pack a bunch of those. Yeah. What else are you thinking that's okay, let me ask you this.
Rice.
What's easy stuff that you could just buy, go to the grocery store right now, buy and store and not have to even think about it, and just store it and save it if shit hits the fan? What are some options that people can just get and not have to think about?
Right. So I tell people pasta is the big deal. Like go to Costco, try and buy the biggest packs of pasta you can. A pound of pasta will feed a family of 4, right? So
for how long?
just a meal.
Oh,
One
okay.
pound
1 pound of pasta
is
good
one
for,
meal for 4 people, right? So, but the thing is you could potentially go to Costco and buy a 30-pound box for $15, right? So that's 30 meals.
Yeah, that'll last you.
That's flat, right? So
And is that the shelf life is good? Is that something you can just store?
dry
and forget
pasta,
about?
yeah. I mean,
We did that video where you have the Mylar bags and the
you can
oxygen
push it
absorbers
out
and
to 5 to 20 years if you do all the fancy stuff with a Mylar bag and oxygen absorbers and all that stuff.
I feel like if you've
But
never
you could just
prepped,
put it in your closet for 5 years.
because that's what I'm saying. I feel like if you never prepped, there's a very vast like world that you're entering, and it's like I feel like you said is a great start, just starting with what you eat and then moving on from there.
I think that's the most important thing. So let's say my wife, she loves the Costco salmon, right? We've talked about this before. I go to Costco. I always buy a bag of Costco salmon, and I put it in the freezer, and I don't even think about it. It's there. There's several of the little bags there, and she can have as much as she wants. But if something went stupid, the only problem that I foresee with something like that is if we lose power.
Here's what I was going to ask you. Now, if someone, if I'm losing, if something happens and you do lose power, you have all this food stored in the freezer, what is an option to fix? Like generators? What other kind of thing?
Right. So this was a tough one. So I'm going to give you some advice based off of our current location, right? Current location is Las Vegas. Power for this community is the lifeblood.
I would imagine it's Vegas. It's
right.
It's
Without power, there's no water. Without power, there's no AC. Without power, there's no lights. So,
how fragile is the power grid in Vegas?
Oh, man, that's a whole nother rabbit hole. There's a million different ways the power grid can go down. And I've worked in different areas of Vegas and the system. And let's just go back for just a second. We'll go back to the power. So power for us is important, right? If you lose power tonight, I would start with the idea of not opening our freezers and only eating stuff from the fridge. Don't eat a dry good at all.
Keep that for the end.
Yes. Eat only stuff in the refrigerator. Keep the door shut as long as you can, and keep it going, right? If you want to try to do generators and or power banks to keep your freezer, refrigerator going, by all means.
How loud is a generator? If I have a generator, will my neighbor hear me?
Yes. You would need to do it for at least 4 hours a day to keep things inside your freezer frozen or cold at least. If you wanted to just use a power bank, you could potentially use the power bank at night and have it out in the sun with solar panels during the day charging.
And then use all the stuff at night.
And then use it and do that every single day, right?
Yeah.
And repeat. That's the best way, but those are pretty expensive. You're looking at a $5,000 investment for solar panels and a good power bank.
But that is another one of them priceless.
Yeah, it is. But here's the other option, right?
Need more? I'm out of ice, though. It's going to be neat.
Neat. Little.
I can go grab ice, but
no, we're okay.
Off camera, but we're flowing, so I don't want to do that.
Okay. But so I set myself. Jesus, that's a good pour. I set myself this limit, right? I'm gonna keep myself going with power generation and stuff like that for 72 hours. When the power has been gone out in my neighborhood for 12 hours, I'm already starting to pack the truck.
Getting ready to bug out?
When the power hits 24 hours, I'm gone.
Interesting. For the people who don't have that option.
Well,
What are they doing? Are they starting to like hunker down at home, like board up the windows?
I have to be honest. If you don't have an option to leave, then I would go with whatever you can for generating power. I have a couple videos on storing fuel. There are some really great options. There are some really great options for dual fuel generators. So if you stored a couple of canisters of propane and some regular fuel, you could use either or. Mm-hmm. You could also use that for the grill to heat water or
yeah.
Food.
I bought a smoker, and the smoker can either be electrical, right, or propane, wood, things like that.
Right.
I went with the propane as a prepper. I went with the propane wood option, so I can store a couple tanks of propane and use those in the rotation and still cook food with wood and charcoal. Is that anything else?
That's a great option.
Okay. Perfect.
It's a great option.
Those are those daily things that
you just have to recognize that with a large family, you're going to use quite a bit of propane, and you need to know.
That's what I'm saying. Not if it's in a smoker, because you plug in a smoker, the smoker just there's like a vertical style smoker.
Yeah.
Propane just gets the.
But you can't boil water with a smoker. You're gonna have to boil. There's not enough heat there. Low heat.
But what if you put it directly above?
Boil. It's problem. It's problematic.
Fair enough.
You could probably do it with just.
What if that's not for boiling? What if that's just for cooking?
Yeah, I mean,
cooking meats that you have stored in your double deep
freezers.
Do you really want?
So, think about it strategically and with the threat of neighbors around. Do you want
lamb smell smoking?
A roast sitting out front for 12 hours while your neighbor is eating Cheerios because that's the last thing in his house. Okay.
That's a good point. You got me. You got me. That's a great point.
Yeah. I mean, the honest answer is that's probably not what you want to do. You're going to have to stand out there with your gun and literally protect your smoker 24/7.
The whole time.
Yeah. And don't send the boy out there to do that man's job on that one.
God, no.
It'd be bad.
Who would ever do
that piece of meat, not even finished, will be gone.
Yeah.
So you have to recognize, remember, zombies.
Yeah.
You put out the smell of fresh blood, they're coming. They're coming.
Oh, you got me.
They're coming. So yeah, you have to think about that.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah, that's true.
So I just finished my.
So what are some off-grid or shit hit the fan cooking options?
Anything you can cook with boiling water.
Like that video we did. Everything we did 16 different options. It was all involved.
But think about it. So my plan.
Except the MRE.
My plan when it comes to long-term survival is soups, stews, right?
Heavy party thing.
I prepped soup type material, rice, beans, things that would go into soups and make them tasty, right?
Lentils.
Yeah, things that are going to have some protein, stuff like that. And why do I do soup? Well, boiling water will be an around-the-clock gig. Probably 12 hours a day you're going to be boiling water for drinking, and the other 12 hours a day you're going to be boiling something for cooking. It's around the clock, right?
Always, that's going to be a job always having to be done. Water boiling.
So if you got, let's say, a solar cooker.
What's that?
That uses the harness of the sun.
No, I'm sorry. I understand the.
You can boil water on a solar cooker.
So what does a solar cooker look like?
There are several different models. There are a tube model that's really great. Those are a little expensive, but
I'm gonna put one up on the screen as soon as.
Yeah, so solar cookers are great, especially here in Las Vegas. We have access to the sun like nobody else. There are really great options. Did you know you can
cost effective?
Yeah, well, I built one out of the lens from one of those old projection screen TVs.
YouTube video that you made a how-to on how to do that?
No,
That seems like a mess.
I think that's probably something that should happen. Good idea. But
that
the
is
lens,
a miss if you haven't done that, dude.
there are videos on. There's a
But
lens.
not from All in Survival.
No, that's true. There are lens, and I kept the lens, and I built myself a solar cooker, and you can actually boil stuff using the sun.
That is, I'm looking at it right now. That is impressive.
Yeah.
Look at I'm gonna pull it up on the screen. But is this something like this?
That is a very good commercial brand. They actually have one that you could use electric or use the sun, and all you have to do is like put a battery pack attached to it, and you could actually use it with the battery pack too. So
that is impressive, and I'm definitely gonna. So I'm actually gonna order it right now.
I would hold off. Do your research. Let's talk about it.
No, but I mean not order it. I meant like put it on my get list.
Yes.
I don't mean order it. 'Cause we're gonna talk about the right one. I don't make prepper purchases without you.
Hey, do your thing.
What, you slip and bump your head before you came to this podcast? I don't do prepper purchases without you, sir.
You have to talk to your wife.
No. That was that's an old situation. My new wife is very, very prepper. So she came from another country that was war torn.
Yes.
So they were preppers in general because they didn't have no electricity half of the day. So when I come in, I say, hey, babe, I want to do something that's going to make sure if something bad ever happens, we're going to have electricity. She's going to be like, oh.
That's a great idea.
That's a great idea. I love that because she's felt it. And she's only, 6 years away from that. That's how, 6 years, that's how far away.
I was at your wedding.
The first one.
Both?
And the second one. That's love.
Both. I went to both weddings.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
One of my only non-blood, non-relative friends to show up to both.
Yeah, well. And you know what? As it is, your family was very accommodating because I recognized that it was a very, very small ceremony with extremely tight quarters and all that. And this extremely tall white guy showed up with his wife.
That's him.
And
he's a tall white guy.
And we took a spot in this little tiny chapel, and we enjoyed the proceedings. It was great. I was actually very proud of you because you've been through some pretty interesting stuff.
Ain't that the truth, man? Damn. Man.
Sometimes, so.
Oh shucks.
I'm not your dad age, but I'm a big brother. And there's at least 15 years between us, 20 years. So 47.
Oh, sorry.
46. I'm sorry, 46. I'm 46. And so there's a few years there, but
the wisdom I've valued since I was younger, since I've known each other. We've known each other for 12 years?
At least, yeah.
Sushi, AK-47s.
Yeah, we had.
Sorry, AK-47s, AR-15 talk. Yeah. We'll get into that a little later. But let's go back. Keep going.
Where were we?
We're talking about. Honestly, we're talking about at that point. We're talking about food preparation, and
stacking it deep.
Stacking it deep.
I actually made some strides in my home. I was packing tons and tons of buckets with Mylar and all that, and just stuffing it into the garage.
I can't tell you how valuable that is. Every time I add another bucket, it's just like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to worry about them.
Right.
I will post a video for sure. Please click on it, watch it. It's a very valuable way. If you're a busy person, you could just take about 10 minutes of your day. No, I just lied to them. About an hour of your day.
Well, yeah.
To put aside. You can really get some work done, and you can put some long-term set it and forget it kind of preps where you just it's a little bit of work, but that long-term result is beautiful because if you're a busy person, coming from a very busy person perspective, I love to just set it and forget it.
Yeah.
Have stockpiles of set it and forget it kind of food, and then have my rotations in place.
Yeah, but even the hardcore dry goods is great, but remember we're in the time of our lives. We have access to these, wholesale food places, Costco's, Sam's Clubs, stuff like that. You can walk in and buy a 25. Yeah, that one's awesome.
That's the best.
Walk in, grab a 25-pound bag of rice for like $12, $20 the max, and put it in. Just lay it down in the closet on the. Stack your shoes on top of it. It doesn't matter. That 25 pounds of rice.
The bed.
It represents food security for almost a week or two for a whole family.
And that's priceless.
You
have
priceless.
4 or 5 of those stacked up.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I just
Some
purchased
meat
these.
in the fridge.
So bouillon, right?
That's that chicken
bouillon,
Yeah.
beef bouillon. It's like salt with all the beef flavoring and all that, right? Salt is great for you. Beef bouillon just makes everything taste a little bit better. I just purchased 2 huge gallon bottles of it for like $10 a piece, and put them in my closet.
But is it like a shelf life on something like that?
No.
If you don't use it, what do you do?
As far as I'm concerned, you use it to whenever.
Like bouillon, I understand. It's beautiful. We use it on everything.
Right.
But is it shelf life is good? That's a good option for someone to just buy in store.
At least 10 years.
Oh,
probably
gosh.
more. I would say that it's not going to really go bad. It just might change taste after a while.
Yeah.
The point is it's salt, it's flavoring. Nobody wants to eat straight rice. There's only a couple people on earth who just like to boil up some rice and eat it.
Rice.
Right. But
if you got
you
rice,
gotta put something,
beans, and sauce, you're good.
And some bouillon. Yeah, toss them. The thing is that we have to cook things that are boiled based.
Yeah.
And make them taste okay, right?
And they have to have a long enough shelf life. In my head, because I don't like I do the rotation thing, but I hate the rotation thing.
Right.
I love the set it and forget it option.
So remember my story
packs.
about putting nothing but cans in my...
Yes. Your closet?
So that ended up going to Craig up in his homestead to feed his pigs. I was like, it had maxed out its life expectancy. Cans, they say 3 to 5 years. Likely, you could probably get 10 out of them without it being bad.
Dry, cool areas. So.
Yeah, 10. But then at about 8 years, I just gave it to him, and I'm like, go ahead and use it towards,
Yeah.
And I got a better job. I started making a little bit more money. I started making sure that I budgeted. This hurts because it's something that my wife is not really fond of. I take really good care of my house and my family but I budget $500 a month towards prepping. That's hard to do. It's hard to do. It's hard to let go of that money.
I'm sure you had to scale that though. You didn't just start at 500. You started at a little bit and worked your way up.
When I was super scared about coming back from Katrina, I probably spent more than that.
But the fear is different. I just mean what you settled
fear buying is not great buying.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Well, I just mean what you settled into prepping.
Right. About $500 a month is what I've gone throughout this last 10 years. But I tried to think to myself and tell myself, I'm not wasting my money. I'm taking my money and taking this fiat currency that could potentially be worthless, and I'm transferring it into something of value.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
That's
the whole it's a savings plan.
Yeah.
People joke that it's a savings plan, but it's a savings plan.
It is. It's
this stuff. So let's talk a little bit about this stuff a little bit. Right. Gold and silver.
Ooh, can I see?
Yeah.
This is gold and silver.
This is a silver 1 ounce coin. And I'm not a huge investor, right? I'm not a huge investor. I don't believe that you should be putting all of your savings into gold and silver, but I do believe that there is a chance that you could potentially have an opportunity to, take the silver and use it for barter and trade. Now, this one's special. Let's talk about this for a second because I've been wanting to get to this.
That's a beautiful piece.
This is by a company, Staff and Stone, and it's beautiful. It's a prepper's coin to remind yourself that you can create, survive, and thrive at all times. And it's in 99% silver, and it stays in my pocket at all times. And now, Mr. Tommy will also have one for his pocket at all times.
What is this? What is this? Oh, no way. No way.
I think that these are so beautiful, and these signify...
Wait, was this a gift?
It's a gift.
Oh,
it
my
signifies...
goodness.
It signifies
oh, that's love right
the
there.
fact that you can thrive, survive, and create at all times, as long as you use your mind properly. So
I love you, brother.
I love you too.
Oh, my goodness.
Right? So silver,
Oh,
gold.
my goodness. That is so cool. I'm sorry. I'm kind of geeking right now. That's really cool.
So I have a couple of things I'd like to say when it comes to...
Dude, thank you again. And I'm just going to stop it, but thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. You're welcome.
I'm so grateful.
I've had that for a couple of weeks waiting to give it to you.
Oh, my goodness.
But the thing is that we're going into these crazy inflation times, right? And people have savings. They're sitting there. They get cash in a bank. They're getting no interest in the bank. The point is that you should be buying things. You should be transferring your wealth from American currency into things that will value better in the long run. Gold and silver is great. I think that that's good. There are other things. Magazines for firearms, freeze-dried food, seeds. I'm about to do a video about seeds.
Like heirloom seeds, like
Heirloom
planting seeds.
Yeah, correct. Somebody I once knew liked to do gardening on his patio.
That's me. I still do. We have it going again.
Yeah, and the thing is that seeds...
Can I interrupt you rudely?
Go. Hey, look at that pattern.
It's the same pattern. It's the same fucking pattern that's on my tattooed on my fucking arm right now.
I had no idea.
That's the same fucking pattern that's tattooed on my arm. Wait. This will pop back up.
That's
on the
crazy.
screen.
I had no idea.
Looks familiar.
Tell me what it's from then. I think that's awesome.
This is from my tattoo artist.
Yeah.
It's sacred
from his
geometry.
mind.
Oh my god, dude. Wow.
Maybe it's sacred geometry. The
Thanks
point
again.
Yeah, you're welcome. I wanted you to have one of those because I think that you could appreciate it, and it's not necessarily the value of a silver coin.
No, but it's valuable. It's invaluable because this is...
It's supposed to be in your pocket at all times. When you're stressing, you feel it and you rub it. It's supposed to give you stress relief.
It's so relaxing.
And then read it. Remind yourself that you can survive, you can create, and you can thrive. Period. That's it. I actually fell in love with this company, and I think it's a great idea.
What company is this?
Oh, here it is, right here.
Sapien Stone.
Sapien Stone. I bought a few of them. Yep. They make them in copper. They make them in regular coins, but I'm like, I'm buying silver. Silver's what's worth something. So
thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah. So transferring your wealth into something that's valuable. And remember, there are many options out there. That's for the coin. It's just a little
I know.
pouch.
Putting it in.
I had mine in the pouch for about the first week, and then I realized it didn't work.
I'm actually not going to keep it in. I just decided right now, as we're talking, this is going to stay here. This is going to be
It's
my
supposed to be in your pocket at all times.
I'll keep it in my pocket. That's fine. But this is more or less going to be for when I'm podcasting and keeping me like,
centered.
Yeah. Keeping me. That's cool. That's very cool. I'm very grateful for this. Anyways.
Cheers.
Cheers. Anyways, continue.
So, So prepping has got more to do with putting yourself in a good position to weather the storms. I read stories. There was a small book that I read one time, and I actually read it. I didn't listen to it. I actually read it. There was a small story that was a book that had several stories that had to do with the Great Depression. And it talked about these young men. I think most of them were between 13 and like 20. And they were talking about how they survived through the Great Depression. And it's really tough to talk about because some of them came from really wealthy families that lost everything. Mm-hmm. And you know what got them through it? Humility. Recognizing that they no longer had the advantages of wealth. And they were willing to do whatever it took to survive. And that meant working hard on a farm when they were, this one guy in the thing, he came from a very wealthy family from Chicago. And during the Great Depression, his father lost everything. Totally dead broke, and the father actually committed suicide. Oh. The mother and two sons left the city because they had nothing. They sold everything and they left. And they went to the country and they were looking for work. And the mother kept turning down work because her pride. And the children had to work and support the mother because of her pride. She could not bring herself to work menial jobs. This is the core of preparedness. Understanding your position and what it will take to get to the other side. Right? So I think it's extremely important to understand that we are in an age of bliss and abundance. Right? You would agree that we're in abundance for sure.
Even with the shortages.
Even right now with the shortage. So in other countries right now, they're suffering much more than us because they're not wealthy. Like, you go to the Philippines and ask them what a wealthy person is. Guess how much a month is a wealthy person?
I gotta stop dropping this.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm trying to flip it, but...
What is a wealthy person in the Philippines?
In dollars?
In dollars.
Is that their currency?
Per month.
Wealthy, probably. I mean, I would assume it's not America, so I would assume probably a couple thousand a month. $2,000, a couple thousand.
$2,000 a month makes you wealthy to the point where you're out picking up whatever girls you want and whatever. Think about that for a second.
Yeah.
Could you survive off of $2,000 a month?
God, of course not.
All right, let's leave it down.
Of course not.
Right. So we're wealthy, whether we like to admit it or not. Yeah. We're wealthy. And the point is that those people are looking at us and we're the Romans. We're rich beyond measure. If you got $10,000 a month coming in, you're a god among gods and you're untouchable.
Fair.
And that's $120,000 a year. There are half of our population making that. But the point is that It's the ego that's going to keep you from keeping your family safe. Take a portion of that and put it towards a rainy day. Saving is out of fashion right now.
Oh my God.
Saving is out of fashion. And I would agree. I don't save. Not traditional saving. But 2 months ago, I bought 3,000 rounds of ammunition. And I've used 200 of it. I would consider that savings.
That's savings for sure.
Is 2,800 rounds worth something? And will it always be worth something?
Forever and ever.
Forever
in
and
any
ever.
situation.
In every situation.
Yeah.
Did I really spend the money to buy those? Or did I transfer fiat currency to lead?
Fair enough.
I didn't spend money. I transferred wealth.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to mentally get to the
It's
point
a great
where
perspective.
right. So
just shifting the money from one value to another value.
my father thinks I'm irresponsible.
For Cocoa Puffs?
He thinks I'm irresponsible. He thinks I spend money like it's water, and I get it, and I don't fault him for that. I just have to remind him that he hasn't seen what I have, and I haven't seen what he has, right? My dad is really thrifty for many different reasons. He went through Vietnam. He was a military police officer just like me, and he saw combat, and he did some things he didn't really particularly enjoy and had some bad taste in his mouth when it came to the military. But his perspective is different than mine.
Mm-hmm.
We just went looking for property just not too long ago, and I when I look at a piece of property,
Like homestead property?
well, I would like for one day it to be a home, but it's just a piece of property at this point. It doesn't even have a well, right? So I picked a piece of property high up on a mountain in the middle of Nevada, in the middle of God's country, but it's at 7,500 feet. The weather is cooler. There is water available around there. I would have to put in a well. But because it was rocky and it was in some areas a little steep, he was like, well, I would prefer something lower down in the valley and flat. And I was trying to explain that I want something high up, hard to get to. You can defend, like something that calls to me. You can't explain your feelings to somebody. It's hard to do that. I try, but
never works.
Yeah, you're either going to do it, you're on your own, or you're going to not do it on your own, or somebody's going to be in line with your thought process, or they're not. And that's just it. You just have to recognize that you're on your own when it comes to that stuff. Preparedness is not that complicated. It really isn't. I talked to the 80-year-old woman next door, and I said, well, how are you doing on food? She's like, well, I'm doing really great now. I got months worth of canned foods stockpiled away. I'm like, I actually asked, I'm like, how did that come about? I didn't think you were. She's like, well, COVID scared me.
Good.
I hadn't seen that in a long time. And as you know, when COVID happened, she was hurting for food. I actually went to where you were working and got food and took it to her. Because, I didn't want to see any harm come to her, especially over something silly as COVID. But she took it to heart, and I thought that was great. I'm like, oh my God, that's great. I said, well, what kind of stuff are you putting aside? And she's like, well, just canned food. I'm like, that's good. Are you eating what you're buying? Absolutely. I just have my son bring over 10 cans of certain things.
Good.
I actually asked. I said, "Do you want some rice or beans or any kind of dried goods? You know."
Long term, more.
And she said no, but I think she's thinking on it. She recognizes that there's some value to stuff like
There's
that.
a need
so,
there.
right.
Well, I think that all of us should value and should know that there's a need there.
I mean, I hope they doesn't. I hope there's no need there.
But
I hope.
Yeah. Hope is different than what's real.
But reality says that you can't risk your family on hopes and dreams. You just can't. You have to be on it, right? Having a few gold coins so that in a really true emergency, you could trade this for something extremely valuable on the spot.
But let me ask you something. In a real shit hit the fan situation, who's trading for gold and when would it be valuable again?
Okay, well,
may I see that one more time while we're talking about it?
Let's talk about this.
Is that a flashlight? May I see that too while we're talking about it?
Something.
Is that part of the EDC?
Yeah.
Okay.
So something happens right away, right?
God damn.
Something happens right away. Within 2 or 3 days, currency goes to nothing, right? Whatever dollars you have is worthless. What's now the most important thing in the world? After currency goes away, what's next?
I would say food.
Firearms.
Interesting.
Once again, you can't keep your food if you don't have.
Fair enough. Okay, yeah, I'm with that.
So that's
a great point.
Third is food,
Yeah.
but next is being able to protect yourself.
Your food.
So if your currency goes away completely, the next most invaluable thing is firearms. Next is food. But at some point, there's going to be somebody who has more of one thing and less of another, and they're willing to trade. And that's where solid currencies come into value, right? So at some point, let's say you're on a trek from here to Idaho, right? You start off on bikes. You pop all the tires. You run into a town where they decided they're going to take a portion of your food and some of your ammunition to let you go through and this and that. You finally make it to a ranch in northern Nevada, and this is what gets you a horse.
But my point is, what would make someone take this as a bartering in the shit hit the fan situation?
Well, they're okay food-wise?
No.
They're okay firearms-wise?
No. Here's what I'm saying.
They recognize true value.
No, but here's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Right now.
Yeah.
Shit hits the fan.
Okay.
You come to me. You say, hey, bud, I need something. You have it. I have this gold coin to give you for it.
Too soon.
Later.
No. I'm just saying it's too soon to pull gold out in the first week of an event.
Okay. Way later. Fine.
Okay. Yeah.
Way later.
Right.
What would make me pick this over you saying, hey, I got 6 buckets of food for your 6 packs of ammo?
The only reason you would say that
What
is
would
if
make
you
gold more valuable?
already have enough food to keep your family okay.
No, but I'm saying, what would make me want gold in a shit hit the fan situation?
You already have enough food to feed your family. That's the honest answer. That's the honest answer.
No. I'm saying this. I'm saying currency.
I understand what you're saying.
I'm saying money in a shit hit the fan situation seems unnecessary.
It's not though, because this will always be valuable.
In the case that shit goes back to normal?
Eventually 90% of the people will die off.
Yeah.
And there will be a status quo.
Okay.
People will get back to doing what people do.
Eventually, yeah, fair enough.
That will still be worth something.
Fair
It will always be worth something.
It's gold.
Understand, it's like
because there's always a rarity in gold and precious metals.
gold and silver will always turn back to being currency. I know that this sounds crazy, but the only currencies,
that's what started currency.
the only currencies that have ever standed the test of time were backed by gold and silver. As soon as a nation decides to not back their currency by gold and silver, things start going south.
Going haywire.
Why do you think, certain countries gotten invaded? Why do you think their regimes were toppled? It's because of gold and silver. Iraq had a ton of gold, was willing to create a stable dinar in those days.
Dinar. It's still dinar now in Jordan and Middle East.
Backed by gold.
Fair enough.
All of a sudden, he was the enemy. You can take it any way you want. There's also somebody in Gaddafi.
Mm-hmm. Gaddafi.
Gold-backed dollar. What happened to Gaddafi?
Explain. I have no idea, actually.
Well, Gaddafi's regime was toppled by the CIA.
Didn't know that.
And it happened not too long after Gaddafi told the world that he was going to have a completely gold-backed dollar. No fiat currency. This is conspiracy stuff. The point is that every time a nation on this planet has put out a currency that is not backed by gold or silver, it's failed. They get really powerful off of making fiat currencies, but it's just your and my idea that the US dollar is worth something that makes it worth something.
Yeah, but that doesn't work. This is what makes it work.
Correct. At some point, things will go south and people will recognize that the dollar's not worth anything. All of a sudden, regular inflation goes into crazy inflation and it's not worth the dime. The dollar's not worth a dime and it gets bad. That's just the way things go. It's happened in numerous countries. It's our job to see these problems coming and start to make preparations
Ahead of time.
Ahead of
Before
time.
you need it.
Gold and silver are good. I think there are several others that are just as good, if not better.
No, I'm thinking ammo, food.
Right. What is
water.
a bag of Mountain House worth right now?
Like $8, $10?
$10. You're right. What do you think that would be worth if everything went south?
A whole box of ammo.
Worth a lot of money. Worth killing for in some cases,
Facts.
right? So the value of that goes up exponentially. At some point, people are going to stabilize gold, silver, and seeds to rebuild, grow some crops, make some vegetables and fruit for themselves. Those are going to be very valuable. My next videos over the next couple of weeks is going to be focused on seeds, heirloom seeds, and how not just having a little bit of seeds on hand so that you can continue to make some subsistence for yourself is important, but starting your own little business after everything goes south, using seeds as your starter.
And that's a forever kind of business until shit gets back together, because the seeds always grow and then make more seeds. And
Well,
grow and
yeah,
make more seeds.
but if you go ahead and put, what do you think $500 worth of seeds looks like right now?
Probably a lot of seeds.
A lot of seeds.
Put that aside, you're good for
You
a
could
while.
probably put it into a full bucket, $500 worth of seeds.
Yeah, and be good for a while. Store it, log it up right, freeze dry. I mean, not freeze dry, but
Yeah,
do the proper long-term storage techniques.
And if something goes completely south, you think it would be worth more than $500? Yeah. So
makes sense. So things have its value. Are these gold things?
So
Are
yeah.
these gold like money?
So
Or
these are not money. These are two contraptions that I've purchased lately. I will take a second to explain these. But when talking about preparedness, we're talking about a time when things are different than right now, correct?
Yes.
Things go south.
Yeah.
Potentially
They
there's
have
no
and they
power.
will.
Right.
Yes.
This is a sundial. And
gorgeous.
this, if used properly, will tell you the time.
In what way?
Well, the sun, if you set it up properly, the sun will bounce off and actually give you a reading on the side of this on what time of the day it is.
What the hell?
It's a sundial.
Okay.
This
and
has been around for thousands of years. Guess what this will do? This will tell you what time of night it is.
Night specifically?
Yes. Yes.
What
This
the heck?
is an ancient device that actually will tell you what time of the night it is at certain times of the year.
What?
And flip it over. This side will tell you when high tide is if you live near the coast.
Where does someone get something like that? Who used that? Seems like it looks like a Viking thing.
It's been around for thousands of years.
Yes.
Well, okay. Let me rephrase that. At least hundreds of years, but likely thousands of years. So I purchased these not too long ago, and I was like, I'm going to teach myself how to use this in many different ways and get to be an expert at this. I haven't done a video about this yet because I'm not an expert yet, but I am teaching myself how to do this. I want to do it in several different scenarios to be able to tell what time it is during the middle of the day.
Oh my goodness. Where'd you get this?
I purchased it online. Exact website I'm sure we'll put in the description, but
Or you send it to me, I will.
yeah, absolutely. I think this is
They're getting back to the roots.
This is the roots of preparedness, and this is the roots of somebody who wants to do basic preparedness. So yeah, you put it at the month and then the quarter of the month that you're at, and then you twist it and then you set it in the sun, and it will go through the center of this little hole and put a light on this dial at a certain time of day, and you should be able to check it out.
What's this called?
A sundial.
Sundial.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Well, dude, I think with that's pretty cool.
This
Thank
is just
you.
an example of some of the things that you should know, like being able to start a fire from, a bow, or being able to get flintstone and start a fire. You should be able to learn techniques. If things go back 500 years, let's say we get hit by a massive electromagnetic pulse that's natural, a CME,
Okay.
coronal mass ejection from the sun. We're due for a big one.
Okay.
But if we do, and it's facing this side of the earth at that time, we could potentially go back to the 1900s.
In what way? Like,
no electronics.
what specifically is this? Like, what is a CME? What is that?
It's electromagnetic pulse. It's plasma.
That's the EMP.
No, it's CME. It's the natural version of an EMP.
Okay.
An EMP is a burst of a nuclear device so high up in the atmosphere that only the electrodes hit the earth and dismantle all electronics. Phones, power grid.
Because the surge is so intense.
Potentially cars, electronics, phones, all that stuff, radios. anything not protected, that's an electromagnetic pulse. Now, a CME is the natural version of what we're talking about. It comes off the sun. The Earth has been hit by several large CMEs over the last.
Have we felt any effects of it?
Yeah. So in 1895, I think it was, it's called the Carrington event. The Earth was hit by an X10 CME, and in those days we didn't have much electronics, right? 1890s.
Yeah.
We had telegraph. Doing Morse code, right? The wires burst into flames. Literally burst into flames. What they deduced was that it was so strong that it was melting the devices to the ground. It was bad.
Okay.
If that event would happen today, we would go back to pre-industrial age. No more electronics.
And like you said earlier, Vegas relies on electricity.
It is. I mean, if we literally lose electricity for more than a week, Vegas is in a real situation.
Yeah, bad spot.
There are some parts of the country that could survive just fine. The South. There are certain places where the weather is temperate. California. But we're in the middle. We're in the middle of the desert, though.
Yeah.
And
yeah, our natural disaster likelihood is pretty low out here.
Right, I agree.
Goodness. Knock on wood if you hear this.
Floods and potential earthquakes. There are some fault lines here in Vegas that are pretty decent, but not.
Really?
Yeah,
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, there are not San Andreas fault sizes, but there are stuff going on here. Yeah, even Yucca Mountain. Do you know what Yucca Mountain?
Yucca Valley.
So Yucca Mountain is where all the nuclear waste is. There are fault lines going directly through that. And the last thing you want is a big one to hit somewhere in there. That's only 100 miles from San Andreas Fault, by the way. To crack the cavern open. What happens if the nuclear material is exposed to the... Yeah, so
Oof.
Problems, right?
Yeah, big problems.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily fear-based, but you need to know what threats are available and out there and what you can do to kind of mitigate it. Yeah, so...
Well, dude, there seems like there is a lot to prep for.
Yeah.
And a lot of potential things that could happen. I mean, I feel like we definitely need to do a number 2 of these.
I would love to.
Because, this was wonderful.
Yeah.
And thank you for this.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Oh, my goodness.
Remember, prepping for one particular thing that's fine. That doesn't matter what it is.
As long as you prep with a high level, at least that one thing is high.
Start prepping. Start low and end high.
Move up. Little things, food, water, blackout kits, survival things.
Yep. I'm always going through my gear and looking how I can improve it and doing what I can. I just finished a preparedness. I haven't done the video yet, but I just finished last month's preps was trying to upgrade my fuel storage. I had an old storage and some cheap gas cans and all of that, and I kind of got some better cans and a smaller storage, and I put some money into it and tried to upgrade it, and I'm in the process of filling those gas cans, and then I will do the video.
Love it. And let me know when you do that. I'll definitely do my part.
Next week sometime.
Okay. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on. Today was wonderful. I love this. Let's plan another one maybe for next month. And let's do something with me, you, and Pete. Remember Peter, my cousin? Yeah. And let's talk just strictly details of prepping. Not even the why. Let's just talk about prepping specifically. Let's just geek out and nerd out on the food storage,
Yeah.
water storage, the blackout kits, with Peter involved. How does that sound?
Whatever Pete wants to talk about, we'll talk about it.
Love it. All right.
All right.
Dude, this has been another episode of the Tapered Viking podcast. Thank you again for coming on, Kyle. Thank you for drinking with me. Thank you for the wonderful, amazing, thoughtful gift. And thank you for being a great influence in my life and a very positive, valuable brother to me. And, I appreciate you. I really do.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to add? Anything you want to say? Where can the people find you?
Yeah, so the channel is All in Survival. It's
Say that
small.
slower.
All in Survival.
There it is.
And the link will be in the description. And take a look at the videos. If you have any questions, please hit me up. I answer every single DM.
He does. There's a lot of knowledge to be had. He's a little modest, but there is a lot of knowledge. I've been in a few of his videos. We've done, he covers stuff like food storage, bug out bags. Everything. You cover everything. Stop being modest.
Try.
We cover everything. So, I appreciate you again. And anything, please send me links, things that can pop up and things like that. And with that, it's been another episode of Tapered Viking Podcast. Please remember, y'all, you have to make sure that we're preparing. We lead, we protect our families, like we say, our loved ones. And it all starts with the preparing part.
I agree.
We're going to keep talking more about this and really bringing this more to the forefront of the world, because it's a scary place we're living in nowadays, and we got to be ready for literally anything.
Anything.
All right, brother. I appreciate you, man. Thanks again.
Thank you.